Right, hello there everybody. I know that I'm starting a little bit late on this particular hangout. There is a reason for that. That would be the, oh hello, I have actually different camera. I want the other camera. I want that camera. Give me that camera. There we go, it's a little bit better. Yeah, I'm starting a little bit late because at the end of the day I'm running this off 4G tethered on my phone because they switch everything off here at the SEC, the event centre here in Scotland. But I'm going to do what I can to do the hangout. Still going to be broadcasting on Mixler as well. So desperately hoping that I have enough bandwidth, which I probably don't think I have. So I might not even do that this time. I might just upload it later. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I think we'll quit that. We'll just deal with what we've got in terms of who we've got in front of us. But we've got people who are joining us already on the hangout. Hello there, Andrew. We've got Michael. We've got Sarita. We've got Leanne. We've got Supercatchick. Hello there, everybody. Now then, I know that on the hangout at the back end of last week, and also on the Patreon only broadcast as well, I did say I was going to set up something for Leanne. At which point, basically, I got the hangout, this thing to sort out. I've had other things kind of like crop up. So I got a little bit distracted, but I am wanting to try and get something organized. Do keep an eye on my social media next week because, yeah, we're going to try and get something sorted out. In that regard, if you are aware of Leanne and her support of everything Comic-Con and nerdy, basically she is a friend to all. And she is a kind-hearted, big-hearted woman, and we need to support her because she's been through the wars over the last couple of months. But let's dive into today's show. It's 1 minute past the hour, and I will explain why this may be a truncated show. We'll get into that in a second. Right, so welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with Englishman in San Diego. It's not a cup of tea, it's an apple, and it's a bottle of water. It's a Frank Whiteley book. It's all my signed comics, which are back at the hotel because, quite frankly, that took some effort to carry them and get them up here to Scotland. But it's been a fun weekend here in Glasgow. I've really, really enjoyed myself. I've had the chance to speak to some amazing people. I've had the opportunity to have Brian Azzarello being sharp and angular with me because he doesn't suffer fools. So how the hell I managed to blag it, I have no idea. And we also I got to experience Donny Cates' full tilt, 100% awesome Keanu Reeves impression. But we'll get into that in a second. Like I say, this is going to be a little bit of a truncated show purely because at the end of the day, it was going to be a show of two halves. Are you going to jump in and just say hi or what? Yeah. Hi, they're just waving. There we go. So yeah, we had ourselves a great weekend. They don't know what the hell I'm doing. But we had ourselves, we were going to have a live report. It's not on TV, no. YouTube. Oh, yeah. Is this a news report? Kind of, yes. About Comic-Cons. Sorry? Millions. Billions? No. What's it called? An Englishman in San Diego. This is what's called live TV. There you go, take care. So there we go. Completely baffled them there. I think they're here for a wedding. They must be. They look very smart. So, hello, Omar. Oh, hello, Omar. I'm there. Hello, everyone. Welcome on. Right, so, yeah, we were gonna have a live report from Thought Bubble. However, due to bus and train schedules kind of running a little bit late, Martin Simmons, who is the artist behind a book called Punk's Not Dead for which one is it? It's Black Crown, which is the Vertigo offshoot. Yeah, that was going to be, he was going to join us, and we were trying to. It should be this for the whole show, possibly. But we were going to be talking about Thought Bubble because if you've been following along on social media, it's gone well from all accounts. Everyone's had a great time. Everyone got a little bit drunk last night at the mid-con party, as per bloody usual. I believe we were seeing stories of artists and DJs and people leaving that event and going off and drinking at like 3 o'clock in the morning. They were never going to make their tables first thing in the morning, were they? It just wasn't that kind of deal. But that's Thought Bubble for you. It's a very relaxed con. Obviously a lot bigger in 2018 as it has expanded into the rest of Leeds. We had that report last week from Ben Brown, and it really, I mean, I wanted to try and get a sense of what the con is now, whether it is still got that very relaxed vibe, whether it's still got any kind of that sense of it being a small community con, even though it has expanded beyond the actual. Leon D, is there anyone out there who can give me a copy of Punk's Not Dead? I'll get you that. There you go, that's my present to you. I'll make sure I can get a copy of that. I'll see if I can get Martin to. I'll get the team to put some scroll on it. And it's an interesting book. So I wanted to see if it had still kept that sense of artists coming together, because when a show gets that big, it can grow beyond its remit, and it can lose sight of what it made it a successful event in the first place. From what I can gather, there is still a little bit of that kind of London clique set up to it. It says a lot that a lot of the Thought Bubble talent were spotted on social media down in London on Wednesday and Thursday. They decided not to cross the border and head north until the actual day of the event, which, you know, kind of they stay where the civilization is and then wander up to the wilds and go north of the wall when it actually is required to go to Thought Bubble. As it happens, the weather apparently was good, and the tents were busy. Everyone was really kind of getting into it and really enjoying themselves. So from all accounts, it's been great. I am going to do my best to try and get some kind of post-con report on that. Hello, Aaron Neighbors. Hello, everyone from San Diego. Pleasure to have you joining us. So, yeah, first things first, do let me know on the chat if there's any questions you want me to kind of cover today. Also, do let me know what the stream is like, because like I say, I'm off my phone, so I want to make sure that the stream stays relatively strong. So this is going to be a shorter show than usual. It's going to be probably about half an hour, purely because it's just going to be what I can report on, which is this event. This, by the way, is the SEC, the Scotland Events Centre, which is held in, it's based in Glasgow. It's a very futuristic, very clean, very modern convention centre, very much like every other kind of con out there, in that you have this outside atrium, as you can kind of see down the. Oh, you can't do that. So yeah, you kind of see down the centre causeway, as it were. But people were coming in. Oh, hang on. Here we go. People were coming in from. If you're looking at this side, so we've got the centre concourse, you've got the exhibition halls on this side, and then just up to my left and to the outer side, you have a reception area, or one of the areas was made into a reception area, which is really good, because then if it was going to rain or if it was going to get too cold, they funneled them in, got them all nicely settled. And first thing on the morning as well, which was 10 o'clock as the doors were opened, they had the bagpipers out. They got bagpipers out, and the bagpipers were doing the Imperial March, and they had a bunch of Star Wars cosplayers. So, you know, it was that was a nice touch, which kind of allowed everyone to get settled and into the mood of the weekend. So that was really cool. They had the Imperial March played by the bagpipers, and then opened up the doors, and it became a very busy event very quickly indeed. Saturday was absolutely rammed, and here's the thing about it. The way that the layout was for this show, you had the main hall. You basically came in through the welcoming area. You went into and approached it from front to back. You had anime, you had a couple of niche booths, such as a local college of animation. You had I think it was Dogs Trust had a booth down in the corner, so you also kind of. I'm curious if I asked Donny about Alan Moore. Yes, I did. I got that question in very briefly, but I got an answer. And it moved further back. So if you actually were approaching the hall from the main entrance, on the right-hand side, you had pretty much everything being organized down the side of the room. So you had your autograph booths, you had your photo ops, and then it got to the back of the room and you had Comics Village, which they really did put a lot of time and effort into curating this great collection of local, national and small press talent here in the UK. So it was nicely organized. Something that I made a comment to MCM when Repop first took over was there needed to be some form of through line, some narrative to the actual floor. In MCM's past, it really did seem like everything just got thrown into position and everyone just kind of like just dived in, and so like spots were taken up and areas were just allocated, not randomly, but it did seem a little bit of a hodgepodge. There's a number of the talent people there, so people are showing up on stage. I'm sure we'll get a bit of a wave as they go by. So we had ourselves all of those bits of this narrative that had been created from the areas that were now represented on the floor. So much so that when it then got to, there's like a back wall where you have two large shutter gates taking you to another hall at the back, which was then allocated to the main stage, the live stage, which is kind of like the chat show area for MCM. And in the middle, you had lots of vendors for some great toys and collectibles, and basically lots of areas for people to go. Here was the great thing about MCM Scotland. You'd usually expect something like that to generate a lot of dead zones, that people will be interested in the anime, people will be interested in the panels, people will be interested in the retail, people will be interested in such and such. And somewhere on the line, usually something would get missed, or something wouldn't have the energy to sustain the rest of the convention. It was equal across the board. Everywhere you went, there was this similar level of activity, excitement, energy that flowed throughout the entire hall, which was really impressive. They managed to get everything shaped and scaled exactly right, that it never felt quiet. It never felt empty in places. There were no dead zones. There were no large spaces where people were just kind of like lost. There was always someone somewhere doing something, and it kind of filled out nicely. It just worked its way throughout the entire room really, really well. I was very impressed by that, by the way that it had been, the layout that had been created by the team here at MCM. So that was very impressive. In terms of content, I can certainly speak to my area, which is the Comics Village area, which I've been assigned by MCM. I was speaking to and had the panel on Saturday with Donny Cates and Brian Azzarello. I wanted to have it very much like a traditional Comic-Con panel, that it's more of a conversation. It wasn't so much razzmatazz, not as loud and kind of screaming at the audience that you would get, say, for example, on the live stage, or at some MCM panels which I've seen in the past, where it's been very kind of loud and bombastic. When I wanted to just scale it back and just talk about these two amazing talents, about their relationship with their characters, relationship with their work. Now, admittedly, I was panicking slightly when we had the guys originally show up, because Brian Azzarello is famously known for not suffering fools. In other words, he's a little bit prickly on occasion. If you manage to catch him on something that he's interested in talking about, there's a bit of a sparkle in his eye, and he will engage. But if say, for example, I started out with a question which I felt could be expanded upon, but ultimately gave an out where Brian would just be able to speak with a 1 or 2 word answer. He would speak with a 1 or 2 word answer. Yes, there were some times when he knew that he was doing it and then give a bit of a chuckle and then just kind of dived in with a little bit more of an expanded question. But Donny Cates, I was a little bit worried about because he showed up. He managed to get into his hotel room at 8 o'clock on the Friday night, which means he had just flown in from LA. He'd been in the UK 2 weeks ago for a convention or signings or just whatever he was doing. Then he flew back to LA for his birthday last Saturday, and then he flew himself back on the Friday for Saturday morning, and he was basically jet lagged to holy hell. May have been a little bit of alcohol involved in there somewhere along the lines, I can imagine. Certainly last night as well, they went out and had a great time around Glasgow. But for the majority of it, I'd say it was more jet lag, and he was absolutely shattered. But the great news is when it came to his panels, because he did the panel with myself on the main stage, and then he did a panel today on the live stage, which was more somebody asking general questions. What do you think about comics and the movies? What do you think about Spider-Man? Who's your favorite who's your favorite comic character? That kind of thing. My panel was a little bit more macro. It was more granular. It was about the actual content, as it were. So the good news is Donny knows when he's got to perform, when he's got somebody who's coming up to him at his booth. He's very engaging. It was good. It was a lot of fun. Not only just getting the chance to speak to him behind the scenes. Somebody did ask if I would ask him about just basically asked 2 words, which was John Wick. He did tell me his Keanu Reeves story. All I can say is it's a shame that we haven't got it on camera because he does an incredible Keanu Reeves. It's an interesting story as well about him kind of getting possibly picked up to do a project with Keanu. And he kind of also talks about him making a comment about John Wick 3 and Keanu kind of going a bit weird on him at the end, which I can understand. Also spoke to him about Alan Moore, basically saying what was that like, and he said he found out where Alan lived in Northampton when he was here, and he just went up and knocked on his door, and Alan came out. You know what? I wish I had the balls to do that, find out where Alan Moore lives and just knock on his door. I think it would be a little bit easier for someone like Donny Cates to do it, to go, you know, I want to talk to you, because if I turned around and did it, then frankly, who am I? So it wouldn't exactly work, but there we go. So yeah, that was the Alan Moore story. Also asked them about their relationship with the various artists they've worked with over the years, including Lee Meho, whose name I can never pronounce. I always get the J and the M mixed up. So yeah, there's the answer. It takes balls. But then again, if you've got the confidence like Donny Cates has, and he does seem incredibly laid back, but it was fun. It was good to have him in the room to talk about it. There was a little bit of a element where they were kind of sat twiddling their thumbs, purely because of the ratio of comics fans to MCM attendees. It's something that MCM and Repop are going to have to nail down and work out and get more comics guests through and fans through the doors, purely because at the end of the day, at 11 o'clock when Donny and Brian sat down, they had this line of people of 18, 20 people who had their hardback copies of Joker, who had their copies of Thanos and had Cosmic Ghost Rider and etc. etc. All of this was being presented to them. And then 20 minutes, half an hour down the line, if that, they were done. And they were just sort of like sat there. The seats were directly opposite the rest of the comics area, which is Comic Village. And the Comic Village did very well from all accounts. I was speaking to a number of friends that have tables here at MCM. They did really well on the initial sales on Saturday. So Sunday was more making sure that they absolutely covered any of their costs and made it worth their while to come. But from all accounts, that's exactly what they did. Still one or two teething problems in how they handle Comics Village, in that there was nobody to act as a go-between. There was nobody walking around. They were all left very much to their own devices, and that's something that I'm going to have to, I may just try to assert myself into Comics Village, because I think it's something that still needs a bit of developing, a little bit of, it just needs tweaking, but still. Super Catchick, Alan Moore is an occultist. A restraining order would be the last of my worries. This is very, very true. I suspect that I would, yeah, I don't think I would, I'd like to be turned into a newt by Alan Moore, which I'm certainly has every ability to do. So yeah, so that's a little bit of a niggle. The actual con itself, when like I say, the panel went well. I think also the live stage panel went well, considering they recognized what the actual, they knew what it was all about. It's a pop culture con with some comics involved. They recognize it, but I did quite like some of the answers that they came up with as well, in terms of, because they were really kind of, Andrew Dickinson thought what was rammed yesterday, knee gave out so left early, today less so. Fair enough. So there is that sense of, they knew that it was kind of a game to kind of bridge that gap between what they did as comic creators and these fans of Venom, fans of Thanos. So they kind of recognized that they needed to breed that bridge. But I did like the fact that they didn't compromise themselves when it came to their answers. When someone had turned around and said, the interviewer turned around and said, what would be your response if someone wanted to turn one of your comics into a film or a television? And Donny turned around and said, I'd love that, but that's not what I wrote the books for. You can spot the ones which have been written almost as a, if not a failed movie script, but as a potential movie pitch. And turned around and said, there's the reason why you've got the black sections, the black covers in front of the tables. That's to hide the scripts that are being passed to you over the table, because that's, at the end of the day, it's about their own stuff, and you can tell the items, you can tell the comics that are being written to generate someone else's interest, either as in a pitch meeting or as that kind of thing. So no, it was cool. It was good to have them there. Spoke to a number of people here as well about Comics Village. Gary Erskine, I spoke to. RHC Comics, I spoke to. A couple of other, Mike Garley, who's a great guy. Spoke to him about how the Comics Village was run, and it did feel a little bit like they had been left to their own devices. So still some things and niggles there. But in terms of the main way that the actual event was put together, it was very seamless. You can tell that while MCM were a pretty organized setup at first in their own regard, you can spot the Reed Pop influence here. It's a lot slicker. It's a lot more of a streamlined engine. Whereas before, perhaps it was a kit car that had been put together and has now been hammered down and just made into a very nice race car, which would possibly do very nicely on a street race. This is Daytona. This is something which is fine-tuned to go around the track and do the damage and do what it needs to do. It is a fun weekend. It was well worth it. Hello there, Sam. How are you doing, sir? Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Sam, by the way, is one of the coolest dudes I've ever met, and hopefully, if you get the chance to go to Ice Comic Con or any of the Ice Cons, you get to meet him, because he's a top bloke. Follow him on Twitter. He's an ace guy. So there we go. Hello, Sam. So there we go. That's I mean, certainly from what I saw, because I managed to get away from Donny and Brian today, because there was not a great deal of volunteer staff floating around, which is another thing which I'm going to have to point out, because there weren't that many kind of like red shirts. They were all allocated to, say, for example, photo ops and line management there, but actually wandering around and being generally helpful, or those kind of like just someone you could just sort of like tap on the shoulder and say, where do I need to go to for this? There was no point of contact there. Everyone was kind of left to their own devices. I don't know if that's a Scottish thing, that they just like to get on with it, but I think it would have been great for someone to have been around, so you could just tap on the shoulder and say, so where can I see so and so, where can I find this, where can I do that, just so there was a little bit more point of contact. Everyone was left to their own devices, which is great, and thankfully the people who do come to MCM and do exhibit here, they kind of know what to do. They don't need to be babied. It's very much like Gary Erskine said, if you're a professional, you don't need to be mummified, you don't have to be coddled. However, at the end of the day, when you've got someone like Brian Azzarello, and when you've got someone like Donny Cates, who are just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, you need someone to be a point of contact, to bring them coffee, to keep them happy. Considering that those were the only two comics creators here of their similar peerage, while they did know each other, at the end of the day, they are different people. They're different temperaments. So they weren't going to be, they're not going to be just kind of like talking to each other. You did have Jay, who is from Comics Signings. I'm going to have to find out which. It's basically an agency that deals with this kind of level of talent. So I think London will be a little bit better for that, because you do have a lot of creators there who are of a similar tierage, that will be able to talk to each other and kind of keep themselves occupied, and they'll be able to see each other. It's very much like Thought Bubble. People will go as attendees to that, and they will catch up with friends, and they will see people from their own circles. They will see other artists from their own creative worlds, and they will keep themselves as a community together. And when it comes to this show, it's not quite there yet. It's certainly the Comics Village talent, they kind of know each other, but they know also that they are there to sell. Someone like Donny and Brian, who are there almost like featured guests, it needs to be handled slightly different. Andrew Dickinson, expensive. I'm guessing this is this is Thought Bubble. Sort of. I'm a gamer. I don't collect comics at all. I spend more at Thought Bubble than any war gaming conventions in the rest of the year. No idea why. Thought Bubble is only Comic Con in the UK I go to. I can understand it. It is a major event, and it's understandable. Omar Hassa, being the coolest dude in a con-based show is like being the hottest day in the North Pole. But I mean that in a good way. I think I know what you're saying there, man. I do get it. Andrew Dickinson, 3 of my weeks in October at conventions. I get that, because I'm going to be I'll give you a bit of a heads up with what I'm going to be getting up to in the next couple of weeks. Next week, it's off. I don't have a Comic-Con in, but it's good because we do actually have a very good guest on next week's show. So stick around. I'll talk to you about that in a second. Be careful, man. SDCC pre-reg will probably be in October. That is probably going to be the case. So do keep your eyes open on your inbox, certainly on Wednesdays coming up, because you'll be only given, say, a week and a half in terms of preparation for pre-reg. So we'll get into that in a second. My conventions for the rest of it'd be October now. I believe it's the first week in October. I will be heading to Lakes on the Sunday. That'll be an interesting show for numerous reasons. If anything, to see if Sean Phillips is going to punch me in the face and kick me out of Kendall for having one of his best mates. I think I might get blamed for having one of their guests not come, but that's a whole other ball game. That's a whole other question. But Lakes is always an interesting convention because it is a art festival, very much about the creatives. There is some stalls and you can buy some stuff there, but it's about showcasing your work. It's about being very much representing at this very prestigious event that is Lakes, which takes place, I believe, first weekend in November. Second weekend in November, I might be going to Star Trek, Destination Star Trek on the Friday, on the press day. Fingers crossed. What did I do now then? This is regarding to the Brutweisers, and we talked about that already. Sam. So there we go. Let's have a look. So yeah, then there's going to be a week off where I will get the chance to recuperate and also do my last minute research, because the week after that is going to be MCM London, taking place in the XL. It is going to be the largest event probably in the MCM calendar, especially when it comes to their comics talent. It is mental, the amount of people that are coming for that thing. And also, considering I got told a name this weekend, which hasn't been announced yet, they've still got some names that are yet to be announced, which is just insane to me. I think if it comes to MCM, they need to get the names out sooner to get the comics people interested in going to MCM. It can't just be a fluke. It can't just be something that you just do at the end and they'll go, all right, well, so the comics fans will just show up. They need to sort themselves out for the rest of the calendar, because there are so many cons that are taking place. Andrew Dickinson, Critical Role peeps, given 3 days to fund up to 365 quid photo and signings at MCM London. People not really happy, especially as they crashed the website, having a sale at noon on a Friday. Yeah, true. I think a lot of people don't understand and recognize just how popular Critical Role is. It says a lot, though, Andrew, and you know this from going to the Facebook group. When we announced that Critical Role people were coming to MCM, a lot of the people on, say, the Con Network and a lot of people that was on the UK attendees group just turned around and went, who? The only way I know about Critical Role is because Tess Fowler talks about them. That says a lot. At the end of the day, it's a niche interest, but it's a niche interest with a lot of backing and a lot of popular, there's a lot of groundswell. So it's a case of maybe underestimating just how popular Critical Role is, and I'll be curious to see where they put them and what stage they're going to put them at and how much queuing is required for that. Andrew English, I'm at Destination Star Trek all 3 days and all 3 days of MCM London. Excellent. Andrew Dickinson, only group that pre-sold signings. As far as I'm aware, yes, but as far as I'm aware also, that was not an MCM decision. This was something that was agreed by Critical Role, because they wanted to see and gauge what the interest was going to be here in the UK. That was more of a fact-finding mission. So there we go. Right. So yeah, let's talk about MCM Scotland as an event, as a separate entity, because you can talk about it in connection with MCM London, but I think that is something that you can talk about separately. It's very organized, it's very professional, it's very slick, it's very well laid out, it's great design work, it looks and feels like an amazing con. It just needs still a little bit more slight tweak, but then again, we can say that about any convention moving forward. Everything just needs just tweaking a little bit more. Well, I almost hired Leeds Arena for them. Well, yes, you did, but then you had to kind of organize it, and it proved to be a little bit more than just shipping them over. And, you know, that's unfortunately the way it is. So, yeah, all in all, though, a lot of fun. Would I do MCM Scotland again if I was just an attendee? I don't think I would travel from Leeds to Scotland just to attend it. People in Scotland were clearly very excited about having something like this close and local and available. But at the end of the day, it's not something yet that people would travel to some degree. and I don't think I would be there yet. I mean, as great as Donny Cates is a draw, and as Brian Azzarello is a draw for 2 people, it'd be almost like me just attending for those 2, and then finding myself again twiddling my thumbs. But as somebody who's going to be hosting panels, and apparently the panel went well, please, the audio is up of the panel. Please let me know. If you listened to it, let me know what you thought of the panel. I don't know if anyone recorded it in terms of video. I know that somebody took some video footage for the promo reel, which I posted up on my Twitter. I wasn't on camera. Bugger. But yeah, it's something that has a lot of potential to draw a lot of international talent. They were talking, a lot of people and Comics Village people, they were talking about the glory days when MCM did something here, and they had Frank Quitely, and they had all this amazing talent coming to the show, in much the same way that they would go to London Super Comic Con now. Because London Super Comic Con has not been going on this year, this is the opportunity, or was the opportunity, for MCM to fill that void. And it's nearly there, but not quite yet. Not quite yet. London, I'm looking forward to getting down there and seeing how that's going to go. Looking forward to Star Trek Destination, because I think that's going to be fun. Like you say, I mean, you've got ourselves. Who was it that said there was going? So, yep. Who was this? Mark Lamming. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, but definitely next time. Oh, let's see, this is where I was hoping that someone would be able to join me. So there you go. That's my review. If you are within a 7,500-mile radius of Glasgow in Scotland, okay, 50 to 75. Let's go a little bit more closer. For the moment, right now, if this was announced, I would be coming to this event. Next year, let's see if they take it even further up, and let's see if they will create an event which people would travel hundreds of miles to attend. It's nearly there. It just needs something. It needs a cherry on the cake. It just needs something else. So there we go. Right. People were asking about pre-reg. Now, pre-reg it could happen at any moment now, because they have done the child allocations and the moving around of data for member IDs. So all the ducks are in the row now for Comic Con International to run their event as of their pre-registration event and getting those tickets sold as of right now. Someone was saying it's going to happen in October, probably in October. I agree with that. I would also say that if we kind of look at October, which is what, a week's time away, or just over a week's time away, it could happen on that 7th. On the 6th. It's possible. It could even happen. I don't think it'll happen next week, because that would be a little bit too soon. So possibly on the 6th, possibly on the 13th. I think they know as well that if they did drop it on the 13th, they would know that whole joke about unlucky for some. But at the end of the day, the setup now for badge sale is so fine-tuned. I'm very curious to see if they want to try again with their other option. The reason why it happened so late for 2017, 2018 was they wanted to do something different with the technology, either as a member ID lottery or whatever else they wanted to do, or you had to enter via their member ID, whatever they decided. They never shared with me what they wanted to do. So who knows? Oh, you can tell it's been a long weekend. Huh. Should I do apologize? I don't think it's going to happen in the next 7 days. possibly in the next 14, more than likely in the next 21 days. So I'd say relax this week, keep your eye on your inbox, and then in the week after that, I think the window is definitely there. And I think they want to try and get pre-registration back to that kind of timetable. So they want to get it done middle of October, and then you're looking at general reg beginning of next year, sorry. So there we go. Right, I think that'll do us. 40 minutes show. I think that's fair enough. MCM Glasgow, thumbs up. I think MCM London is going to be a massive 2 thumbs up with 1 or 2 niggles, but I don't think it's MCM's fault when you find out what the niggles are. Considering that, I have heard rumblings at this show from the people who are organising it that DC are wanting to do something with the comics guests, Frank Miller, Tim Sale, John Romita Jr., with Brian Azzarello, with the Andy Kubert, with Klaus Janson. They're wanting to do something which I think is a bad idea. Simple as that. In my dream scenario, it would be great for them to be doing spotlight panels on all of them. It would be great for us to have 45 minutes with Frank Miller, 45 minutes with Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti, 45 minutes with Tess Fowler. Well, one of those you will, because she's doing a draw and talk, and I'm looking forward to moderating Tess's panel. Absolutely, that has been confirmed. There's been, like I say, another name that I got shared, which if I get the chance to speak to him, even if the rest of them had been cancelled and he was the special guest, that would still be a major headliner. So that gives you an idea of who we're talking about. I may reveal that on the Patreon only, which I'll do. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to wrap things up for 5 minutes, and I'm going to go straight over to Patreon only. So there. But tell you what, we'll wrap up the show and just say thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Hopefully you'll get to attend a MCM down the line. I would recommend it because ReedPop are really turning these shows into something very special. Next week, may have a special guest in the form of James Milner, who is the guy behind Wales Comic Con. Now, it's not the greatest website in the world because even on the homepage, it doesn't tell you when it is or where it's being held. But I would go to the Wales Comic Con website, if anything, so you can have a look at the insane guest list that James put together. It is jaw-dropping, absolutely jaw-dropping. I want to talk to him about what it's taken to put that event together in Wales. So that's something else. It's very much a media show. So there's a lot of celebs, but my word, the caliber is incredible. So do check that out. Hopefully Jamie will be joining us. He did say he wanted to come on, and he wanted to come on next week, but that's hit and miss. We'll try and nail that down. Somebody who will be joining us. Are you ready? Are you going to New York Comic Con? Would you like to find out more? Mike Armstrong's back. We've got Mike going to be joining us. We're also going to be joined by a couple of others from the ReedPop team who are going to be talking about New York Comic Con. It's taking place in about 2 weeks time. So it's going to be a fun show. It's going to be talking about organizing some of the biggest events in the UK and national, in the American markets. So it's going to be, less of it in Wales. I know it sounded like I was putting it down, but it's still strange to me here in the UK and in Wales that we get these shows which have, it's the kind of show that would attract attention from international markets, that people would fly in to attend. maybe it's just the old underdog in me that you know, I just think you want to fly into Wales? You want to fly into Leeds? Yes, why not? They are international destinations. They've got airports like everything else. So no, I understand what you're saying, Sam, but it's still a hell of a lineup for one convention, and not only that, but for this one guy to basically have been put together. You can understand why he's constantly looking stressed out on social media. So, looking forward to speaking to James about Wales Comic Con, and like I say, speaking to the guys from New York Comic Con. Repop, Mike Armstrong is going to be joining us next week. Super Cat Chick, awesome. I'm horribly unprepared for New York Comic Con. Yeah. And I think a lot of people will be as well, as they suddenly realize that the clock and the calendar is ticking round. And yeah, it's almost here. 2 weeks to go. So that's going to be fun. Hello there. How are you doing? Not too bad at all. Where have you been in the show today? Where have you been vending? No, for which company? Which is? Sorry? Are you in the Comics Village? No, I was. Oh, right, okay. I was. Well, tell you what, can you join me for 5 seconds? Yep. No, because it'd be good to get another perspective on it. This is somebody who's been vending, and it'll give you a sense of what the organisation has been like. Ah, no, this is where we need to grab yourself a seat. Oh, hello there. Ah, fair enough. Just to introduce myself, my name's Leonard. I run a website called An Englishman in San Diego about comic conventions and about shows like this. Introduce yourself, and yeah, I think the mic should be able to pick you up.
Hopefully so.
Yeah, but yeah, introduce yourself, and yeah, what have you been doing at the show this weekend?
Well, I'm Vanessa Sutherland. I've been vending this weekend as a fan artist.
Okay.
I just draw whatever I seem to like at the moment, and it seems to sell. So.
Whereabouts in the floor were you? Because I've been explaining that it's been the one thing that Repop have done with the shows is create a narrative for people moving through the shows. That it doesn't just seem like it's just okay. Where should we put this vendor and throw a dart at the ball?
Yeah.
There's a definite through line. Now to the MCM shows. So whereabouts were you inside the show?
I was just beside the main stage.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So in terms of like
what was it like for volume then? Because that's a real tough kind of space to be put.
The way it was, there were 6 rows beside the main stage, and with the main stage there was 2 doors just entering the end 2 columns of the first 6 rows. So those 2 columns got the most traffic, and they kind of just didn't bother with the before.
Wow.
So I didn't get as much as the
side.
But still really decent. I made back table, I made back costs.
Well, I mean, that's what I've been certainly hearing from like the guys from Comics Village. Not as busy as last year, but they made their money. They've been happy with the sales they're getting. What's the footfall been like in terms of the people you have been speaking to? Has it been people who have come to MCM for the first time because they've heard that it is this now bigger, slicker kind of event, or is it more kind of returning faces?
To be honest, it looks like
a lot of returning faces.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see many who seemed pretty innocent to the scene.
Okay.
There seemed to be a lot of veterans.
Fair enough.
From what I could tell, anyway. This is my first MCM, so I
don't
have much
have you attended it before?
Yeah, I've attended.
Right. So you know that but okay, but it's obviously been worth your while as an exhibitor there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been my best con this year. So.
Oh, well, there you go. That says it all. That absolutely says it all. That's fantastic. So, I mean, I'll let you get off because you're all. I'm sure you want to get off and get. But if you want to just tell people where can people find your art? Because what we'll do is I'll also get some screen caps up. We'll stick it in the Twitter and we'll stick it on the social, and we'll share. Where can people find you? And
well, you can find me on Canter, so it's Kanner, on Twitter, Instagram, DeviantArt, Facebook.
I'm gonna have to write that down. I'm gonna have to write that one down. Okay.
I would give a business card, but
it's buried in the cases.
So
that's fine. What I'm gonna do is, I mean, I'm looking at the time. I will do a replay. We'll get that. Say that again one more time.
Kanner.
Does someone want to just type that out into the chat room as well, so I can catch up on that? But no, thank you very much indeed for spontaneously joining us.
No,
I mean, love the spontaneity. Surprise special guest.
No,
so that's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Glad I was able to help.
Thank you very much indeed.
Am I able to grab a business card from you?
Sorry?
Am I able to grab some details from you? Or do you not have anything?
I don't, because I'm relaunching my website soon.
In the midst
the
of
Convention Collective.
Convention Collective, okay.
Or an Englishman in San Diego. So it's pretty easy. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm 6'4" now, wear a white cap. So there you go.
I'll give you a Google.
Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers.
Someone's going to give me a Google. Last time I did that, the RSPCA flagged me up. Anyway, moving on. So there you go. Fantastic. But no, it certainly gives you a real world sense of what it's been like in there. That's good. It's a good sign that they've done really well in terms of the retailers. That's fantastic. Right. So once again, special guest next week is going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, Jamie Milner from Wales Comic Con and Mike Armstrong and the team from New York Comic Con next week. Thank you very much indeed. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. I am now going to shut things down and move over to Patreon, where I will be revealing the name which was talked to me today, who is going to be coming to MCM and who I'm going to be doing a panel with. And look at the size of my grin. I'm a happy bunny. But there we go. Right then, thank you very much indeed. Hopefully you can join us on that, and hopefully you can join us next week. And then I should be doing a live show from the Lakes, which is in Kendal. Like I say, it's a show which is more geared towards fine art and comic art rather than the writers and the creators. So it's a very niche show. I'm just going to be going on the Sunday, but I will be trying to see as many people as I possibly can. And yes, I will be discussing the possible avoidance of the controversy that they could have had. But it's something that has now passed, but for the comics industry, still rumbling on. So there we go. Take care. I'm now going to go over to the Patreon, and we will see you on the other side. Thanks for joining us, and take care. Bye-bye.